107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also on 3FM 927 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You're streaming live right now. I am Alfred Ocansey. Good evening to you. This evening, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta heads to China again for talks over external debt restructuring following an earlier postponement of same amidst worrying concerns Ghana may not secure an IMF deal by the first half of the year. We'll bring you details of this and reactions as well here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Opposition NDC paints a gloomy picture about the state of the Ghanaian economy, which it says has been run down by the Akufo-Addo administration. We'll hear from the national chair of the party, Johnson Eshedun-Ketia, who claims the president does not appreciate the realities the Ghanaian people are faced with. We'll tell you details of the NDC's true state of the economy address earlier today at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. We'll give you details of these plus more, together with sports, entertainment, and the latest in the world of business. We'll tell you as well some reactions coming through as a result of the announcement and the unveiling of Chris Hughton as Black Stars coach ahead of that crucial game on Thursday. These and more in the next 60 minutes here on Hot Edition of 3FM 92.7. Welcome. Let's get into the details now. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta left Accra for China as part of efforts to secure a deal to restructure Ghana's bilateral debts with the Asian economic powerhouse. A crucial component of the IMF bailout from the Bretton Woods institution is the restructuring of both local and international debt. China is a key player relative to Ghana's external debt, says, holding about $1.7 billion of Ghana's $5.5 billion bilateral debt. Now, what's happening is that already watchers of the Ghanaian economy have predicted difficulties in securing a board approval for the IMF deal as the government's own March deadline looms. Today is the 20th of March. Technically, we have less than 10 days to go. Sani Abdul Rahman is my colleague with the 3FM, that's 3 Business Desk. It's been following this quite keenly, and the IMF conversations and the resultant debt restructuring is going to be joining us shortly on this, also together with Professor Lord Mensah. But talk about issues related to the state of the economy. The NDC has been talking and also making pointers to what the IMF deal could probably turn out to be. Take a listen.
When everything is said and done, this is the true state of our nation, Ghana. This is what we feel when we go to the market. This is what we feel in our pockets. This is our everyday reality. A reality in which babies do not have vaccines, leading to a measles outbreak. The youth do not have jobs. The middle class faces imminent extinction. The elderly are being deprived of their life savings by the very government that swore to protect them. This is not the Ghana we deserve. This is not the Ghana our forebears toiled and sacrificed for. The NDC shall not be complicit in this mess. We are determined to work assiduously with the Ghanaian people through our superior, patriotic policy alternatives and impressive track record to rescue our dear nation from the abyss.
So that's Johnson Eshedun-Ketia, who is the chair of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, and how things are playing out with the IMF's engagement. In fact, the finance minister, from what we gleaned earlier today, is currently in China to engage the Chinese on that's the debt exchange program. That's the external debt exchange program. Questions have been raised as to whether the demands of China can be met by government if they have to indeed pay attention to us and our efforts to get them to restructure the debts that we owe them. Remember, we have the Paris Club as well as the Eurobond holders as well, who are looking quite closely as how things are playing out. The Eurobond holders, Ghana owes them about $3 billion as well. So the creditor committee, we understand, is also meeting this week to have an engagement on Ghana's external debt exchange program and the proposal that government is taking to them as we speak. Now, Abdul Sani Rahman is with our three business desk. He's been watching quite closely the happenings with the finance minister and the entourage in China. Is joining me on the telephone. Sani, thank you so much. Now, what more do we know about this latest trip that the finance minister is on in China?
Well, certainly a major crossroad for the government as far as the negotiation and restructuring of the external debt is concerned. We know the minister was originally planned to visit China some weeks ago, but because of China's national celebration, the visit had to be postponed. But we know a Chinese delegation from China's Exim Bank and some state institutions directly related to Ghana's debt issues with China were in Accra to assess the numbers and look at possible debt relief that China could offer to.
Hello, Sani.
Authorities in China to convince them of the need to provide this debt relief to Ghana. Certainly because we know China's stance when it comes to debt treatment. We know China doesn't tolerate debt relief conversations because it has become the world's biggest bilateral creditor now, and it doesn't want to entertain those conversations because it may certainly lead to a huge loss for the Chinese economy as far as its external loan advancements to developing nations is concerned. So the minister will certainly have a huge task and, of course, a difficult one for him to convince the authorities in China to accept. We know the government is seeking extension of moratorium. We know the government is seeking extension of maturities. And on top of it all, the government is seeking to lower the interest rate on the $1.9 billion debt that Ghana owes China. And that certainly is why we've had the likes of Western creditors like Germany calling on the Chinese authorities publicly to offer some sort of consideration to help revive the Ghanaian economy. Also because the Western creditors do not want to incur losses on their funds advanced to Ghana so that Ghana will use those excess funds to service China's debt. They are of the view that we are all lenders and creditors to Ghana. We've lended to the Ghanaian economy for some sort of benefit as far as interest rates and yields are concerned. If the Ghanaian economy is in some sort of crisis, we have to burden share to help the developing nation come out of the storm. But looking at how China handled Zambia, how China has handled Ethiopia, Uganda, and the likes of the developing economies that have had some sort of debt overhangs with the Chinese economy, it does not seem to me the finance minister will have more or less an easy job to do in China.
And you see, now you make a very interesting point about issues related to how China is also going to have a posture. Now, you know this, that earlier the IMF and indeed the World Bank had demanded of them to soften its stance on engaging with developing countries or debt-ridden countries like Ghana. Now, the difficulties surrounding the IMF deal have been well documented. Does it look like things can be wrapped up quickly before the end of this month to aid the Ghanaian economy get this IMF program as the president has been talking about?
Well, Alfred, with the greatest deal of respect, it does appear to me either the president is not being briefed properly or he's out of touch with economic reality. Because, first of all, a creditor committee needs to be formed for the committee to engage amongst themselves, engage the borrower, in this case, which is Ghana, to decide on what sort of hit they can take to help the Ghanaian economy come out of the storms. And I've not seen in any instance where, as far as developing economies are concerned, the creditor committee using a week to engage amongst themselves and agree on what to do. Remember, this whole invitation extended to China, which is a non-Paris Club member, has some sort of geopolitical twist. The Western creditors have, for so many years, been saying China is intolerant of debt conversations. So they will want to paint China in that light. Remember what's happening in Europe, the war with Ukraine and Russia, the China stance. The Western world has been calling on China to take a certain stance. China appears to be in favor of the Russian side, but painting a picture of neutrality. All these elements will play in. And remember, the president has gone at the highest level of global diplomacy to take a stance against Russia, which we know has some sort of bearing with Chinese authorities because they belong to the same league. So these dynamics will play out. The Paris or the creditor committee will have to meet and assess the numbers and look at what they can take. In the case of Zambia, for example, it took nearly 8 months after the staff level agreement for China to agree to chair the creditor committee with France, which hosts the headquarters of the Paris Club, for the negotiation to start. Before Zambia got the finance and assurance and ultimately the board approval for IMF. As we speak, the committee is yet to tentatively agree on something important as far as the debt restructuring conversation is concerned for Zambia. And that is beginning to cause some sort of problems and anxiety among the creditor community. So it does not appear to me, as far as feasibility is concerned, that the program could be realized within the next 7 working days. The assurance from China will be gotten. China will come to the board. The committee will assess the numbers and use 7 days for the deliberations to be done, for the IMF board to sit within a day or a single meeting to agree and approve a program for Ghana. That is unrealistic out there.
Sani, thank you so much for this and the analysis on this particular situation. Abdul Sani Wakman is my colleague on the 3 Business desk, and he's been monitoring the happenings and the engagement between the Finance Ministry and the Chinese authorities. And if you go on our Facebook page right now, you'll see some of the updates that we're giving you on this engagement with the Chinese authorities on this IMF deal. Remember, China is our biggest single creditor in terms of country specific, $1.7 billion. That's how much we owe China. And if you look at the African that's borrowing landscape, a lot of the countries on the continent owe China billions of dollars, and that's how they position themselves in various countries. And we've seen how things have played out in countries that go to them for debt cancellation. They either ask for strategic assets ownership, that's the strategic assets of those countries to be owned and operated by China for a certain period of time, or some other very, very heavy-handed demands that they make. So there are people who are raising questions about what exactly we're going on the table with when it comes to this engagement with China. And we're looking quite closely, Abdul Sani Rahman there, but also, if you just joined us, some 14 minutes after 5 here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, Finance Minister Kenneth Friata left Accra for China to have negotiations on the debt restructuring with officials of that country. Our sources say the minister left over the weekend via Addis Ababa, where he is attending the UNECA high-level ministers meeting on global financial architecture. After that meeting, Kenneth Friata is expected to head to China possibly on the 22nd of March, which is just some 2 days away. And the minister who is leading the government delegation is expected to continue the bilateral talks with China, as well as seek financial assurances for Ghana's program with the International Monetary Fund. Doubts have been raised about whether Ghana could get this IMF program by the end of March, as the president, indeed the finance minister, have confidently put out over the last few days gone by. And Dr. Edu Osusakodia is an economist and also a lecturer at the University of Ghana Economics Department, is joining us on telephone. Dr. Edu Osusakodia, thank you so much for time on Hot Edition. Now, considering how things are playing out, and with your knowledge of how these international engagements are and how long it takes, all things being equal, can Ghana get an IMF program by the end of March, as the president and the finance minister have been talking about?
We should get a program by the end of March. Remember that a condition to get a program is to get a letter from our creditors, that they are a letter of commitment from our creditors that they are willing to do the debt exchange program with us. And so now, I think according to government, we are done with the domestic front, the domestic debt exchange. We are going for the external debt exchange, or external debt relief, as you may call it. And so, yeah, to the extent that we are able to conclude issues with China, Paris Club, Eurobond market holders, other commercial, creditors, then I think we are likely to get a program. So everything depends on how fast we can get the debt relief from the external level. And if everything goes on well as planned, we are likely to get a program by the end of March, because the government of Ghana has not indicated otherwise. And so we must go with their timetable.
But whereas we take into consideration what government has said, you would also agree with those who raise questions about the feasibility of these timelines communicated by government, considering the complexities that sometimes, and in most cases, govern such engagements with external debt holders. I mean, it's not just about China, obviously, but the creditor committee, we understand, are also going to meet this week. That would also take some time, and we're talking about just some 7 working days before the month ends. Taking into consideration all these realities, is it still possible to get an IMF program by the end of March?
Well, the government will obviously always set a timeline for its program. As individuals, we do that, don't we? Like in a week, we say we want to accomplish that. That is just target. And sometimes you may go beyond the time that you set for yourself, or get below the time, or before the time. But looking at the complexity of the whole thing, we know we owe about China about $1.7 billion, Paris Club $1.9 billion, Eurobond market $13 billion, and other commercial banks about $3 billion. Altogether, you're talking about a little over $25 billion. So, well, it is very necessary that the government goes through with these negotiations, and then they get it. Even if they are not able to get a program by end of March, I'm not sure we will go beyond April. Let's pray and hope that they are successful for the negotiations on the external level, and that they get a program by the end of March. We have about 10 days or more before the month ends, and a lot can happen within 10 days. So like I said, let's just pray and hope that they get it done. If they're able to secure it by the end of March, I'm not sure, we may even go beyond April. They may likely to be in the first week of April. So it is a difficult situation for government and for everybody, for you media and those of us like Kenya, because right now nobody knows. There's so much uncertainty about whether or not the creditors would accept. We saw what happened at the domestic level, the testing program. So the uncertainties are difficult to define now.
I see, and there are many, and finally, many have asked that why is government tying itself with just the IMF, the China talks ending at a particular time of the month, and not exploring other areas of reducing expenditure, so that if this China arrangement or this engagement with China does not end by the end of March, and we don't get an IMF program by the end of March, the economy wouldn't grind to a halt. As the finance minister has said, that if we don't get an IMF program by end of March, the economy is likely to crash. That's what he said earlier.
Yeah, Alfred, I think we should understand that the conversation usually now is about the public debt, existing public debt, not incoming debt. We are talking about existing public debt. So the IMF is saying that before government can get a program, they must deal with the existing public debt. All right, that's not point one. Point two, to get an IMF program is to get the reserves increased and also get a policy credibility, as we call it, so that the city does not depreciate that fast. If it depreciates maybe 3%, 5% is okay. But for it to depreciate at 40, 60% as it did last year, this economy cannot sustain it, any further depreciation in the city. That's why they are so much in a hurry to secure the program so that we can get some inflow of forex to stabilize the city in the immediate term. I mean, we know the long-term solution for any currency stability is to export more and get in forex, but in the short term, you need this program to get the inflow of forex and to secure some stability in the economy. On the issue of government expenditure, of course, if government today decides that they're not going to build bridges, they're not going to build roads, they're not going to build hospitals, what will happen is that they may not incur huge budget deficits this year, and therefore they will not borrow so much this year. But will it affect the existing debt? I'm not sure it will affect the existing debt because the conversation now is about the existing debt. So if they reduce the expenditure now, it's only going to affect future debt procurements, as we may call it, but not the existing ones. That's why the conversation must be. But I understand why many people want government to also show some level of commitment in terms of containing their expenditure. They should show it. But let's look at the components of the expenditure as you are asking. The first on my list here is the interest payment. Interest payment is a commitment the government of Ghana cannot say they won't pay. If they want to reduce the interest payment, and then they have to negotiate with the creditors, and that's exactly what they are doing to reduce the expenditure. Next on the list is compensation for employees. Or can government say that we are going to reduce how much salaries or transfers they are giving to government workers? I'm not sure workers will accept it. In any case, workers are asking for a further increment in their salaries. I'm a government worker, and so if they increase my salary, I'll be happy. The other one is transfers to government units, which is also statutory payment. It is by the Constitution. They cannot say they are going to reduce it. If they want to reduce it, then they have to go back to Parliament and renegotiate on the terms. We know the transfer to District Assembly Common Fund, the transfer to Road Fund, the transfer to Get Fund, NHIL. These are all statutory payments that the government must do. So for this year, I did this calculation with my level 200 students in class. For this year, by the time the government finishes paying the interest, finishes paying compensation for employees, finishes paying the transfer to government units, which you call the statutory payment, it will be at 88.6%. So the remaining 11.4% is what maybe the government can, manipulate, can use to manipulate the economy, and that will go into goods and services, that will go into capital expenditure, that will go into other, recurrent expenditure and other discretionary expenditure. So we are just talking about some 11.4% of the total expenditure, which the government can touch. The remaining 88.6%, the government cannot touch it. And out of the 88%, if you want to go deep and touch any of the expenditures, then it will be the interest on the loans. And if we want government to reduce the interest on the loans, then that's exactly what they are doing to negotiate with the creditors, both at the domestic level and also at the external level.
We'll see how things play out. A quite detailed analysis there. Dr. Edu Osusakode, thank you so much for your time as always. Appreciate it. Dr. Edu Osusakode is an economist, a lecturer at the University of Ghana Economics Department there. Now, Ghana is hoping to restructure $5.7 billion of its external debt, which is total $25 billion. Out of the $25 billion total external debt, $5.7 billion is what government intends to restructure, with China holding a third of that amount. That's about $1.7 billion. The structure of Ghana's external debt shows that the country owes China a little over $1.7 billion. The Euro bonds holders are also owed some $13.1 billion. Multilaterals, $8.1 billion. The rest are the Paris Club countries, $1.9 billion. And other creditors, $3.2 billion. Here's what we're learning, that there's been some significant progress on negotiations with the Paris Club, with requisite documentation submitted and the expectation of the formation of a creditor committee also being set out expeditiously. That's what we're learning from sources within the finance ministry. But What's happening now is a difficulty with the Chinese engagement and also the engagement with the other creditor committee members. So that's how the coming days will look like, as the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has left Accra for China to have negotiations on debt restructuring with officials of that country. Our sources say the minister left over the weekend via Addis Ababa, where he's attending the UNECA high-level ministers meeting on global financial architecture. After that meeting, Ken Ofori-Atta is expected to head to China, possibly on March 22nd, 2023. The minister is leading the government delegation, expected to continue bilateral talks with China, as well as seek financial assurances for Ghana's program with the International Monetary Fund. Now, today, the NDC, at this True State of the Nation address, which was given by the chair of the party, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, they made the point that beyond asking for the IMF for a bailout, President Akufo-Addo should remove what the NDC describes as needless offices created at the Jubilee House. For the NDC chair, many of the auxiliary appointees at the Jubilee House rather create avenues to merely waste public funds and also increase public expenditure. And Johnson Esiedun Ketia also says the NDC wants the president to deal with corruption as a way of assuring the Ghanaian people of commitment to improve the economy.
It was the Attorney General pretending to take umbrage to the publication of the report. Then comes the Chief Corruption Clearing Agent himself, even before the said report is considered by Parliament. How does President Akufo-Addo reasonably expect Ghanaians to accept as honorable the Auditor General's finding that COVID-19 related payments totaling more than 543 million Ghana cedis were made to various service providers outside of the Ghana Integrated Financial Management Information System, in clear violation of Regulation 61 of the Public Financial Management Regulation 2019 LI 2378. How about the Auditor General's finding that medical equipment valued at nearly 250,000 United States dollars, which were procured with COVID funds and subsequently issued to some specific health facilities, did not reach these health facilities? How? Mr. President, I put it to you that there is everything dishonorable with the finding by the Auditor General that a company known as Modern Security Printers Limited, which was awarded a contract to conduct public education on COVID-19 safety protocols for students at an outrageous cost of 1.5 million Ghana cedis, has been paid in full for no work done.
That's Johnson Esiedun Ketia, chair of the NDC, the True State of the Nation address earlier today at the University Studies as UPSA here in Accra. Let's go on to the telephone now. And Joe Jackson is a financial analyst also joining us. Joe, thank you so much as always, Ms. Jackson, for your time. Now, we understand the Finance Minister is in Addis Ababa attending this UNECA high-level ministers meeting on global financial architecture, after which he's heading to China to continue the talks to get that country to commit to restructure our debts so that we can get the IMF board's attention. Now, do you still believe, from what things are going to play out to be, that we would get an IMF program by the end of the month?
Yes, increasingly, I am very skeptical that we will be able to get the IMF program before the end of the month. Remember that you got to get an agreement not just with China, but with all the other players, the Paris Club, the bilateral made up of bilateral, multilateral donors, the commercial bond holders, the IMF and World Bank Group. You've got to get all of them to come into an agreement in what is roughly another 9 days left for the month. That's a tough ask. A really tough ask. The fact that the finance minister is going to China is a good thing. It means that they are working hard at it. But I'm getting very skeptical that we can be able to deliver this within the time period that the president promised us, which is within by the end of the month. It looks increasingly a very, very, very tight deadline.
What could possibly go wrong? I mean, just for the benefit of our listeners, if we don't get an IMF program by the end of March?
Well, it is very much dependent on how low our reserves are. If our reserves are really low, then remember that we've been running down our reserves for some time. And the only reason why our reserves, we created some room, was when we said we wouldn't pay for our debt way back in December. So we've not been paying for our bonds, the coupon or the principal, and we've not been paying the like, and that created some room. The challenge you have is that our reserves are running lower and lower by the day. If we don't get an IMF program, we will soon run out of foreign currency. That means we may not be able to get the money in dollars or whatever currency required to import euro, which means our energy sector will be affected. Drugs and the imported foods, and we could go on and on and on. The main risk for not being able to get an IMF deal soon is that our reserves will run low, and then we will run into problems.
I see. Now, as you say, it's increasingly becoming unlikely to get an IMF program by the end of the month. What other avenues should government also be paying attention to so that we could survive the possibility of not getting an IMF program by the end of the March, which you say is becoming increasingly likely?
Well, I suppose there could be some negotiation with the IMF in order to say, even if we don't get it in March, we'll get it soon after. And, all this is very much dependent on when the IMF board meets. I don't know whether we can negotiate an emergency board meeting to approve Ghana's deal when we have all the ducks lined up. But at this moment, we are between a rock and a very hard place.
Mr. Jackson, thank you so much for your time as always on Hot Edition. Appreciate it. Joe Jackson is a financial analyst joining us with his thoughts on this. Former president and flag bearer hopeful of the NDC, also talking about the state of the economy and his intention to run for office as flag bearer of the NDC. What exactly does he intend to do? And also he's been expressing his thoughts about the state of the economy. We'll get into that shortly. And what John Mahama has been talking about, some 26 minutes to the top of the hour, 6 p.m. here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Take a listen to John Mahama.
Are you the hope for Ghanaians?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm the hope. It's like a messiah. I don't have those spiritual connotations, but Ghana has given me much. It's given me a lot of experience. I've worked in various levels of leadership, and I think that at this time of crisis, the experience that I've garnered, that of our birth, we have no other country, and all of us must come together and work to put it back on its feet. Unfortunately, this government has been very exclusive, not wanting to bring in expertise from others. When we come, it's going to be different.
That's the former president, John Mahama, who declares his intentions to contest the flag bearership of the NDC in the Ashanti region, interacting with delegates of the NDC in the Ashanti region ahead of the filing of his nomination tomorrow as well. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. The Asantino Tunfo say to the second is also urging the government to be transparent with Ghanaians as the country works towards dealing with the current economic challenges. He said, sadly, it appears public consultation did not take place before the program commenced. The nation is currently in a tense mood, even though government has announced the completion of the domestic debt exchange program. Asantio 247 wants to implore on government to demonstrate high level of transparency and be candid in these difficult times in order to win the trust and confidence of general public. He further called on government to bring together best brains with the requisite expertise from the various political parties, academia, and civil society organizations to present an excellent proposal to help Ghana secure a bailout that will be beneficial to all. Otumfo is quoted as saying that government should be more accommodating and reach out to those who may even oppose them politically. He's also concluding that as we move to negotiate with external creditors, he urges government to bring together the best brains with the requisite expertise from all political perspectives to present what he describes as the finance proposal so that whatever decision the country chooses will be everyone's responsibility. He was speaking at the 56th congregation at the KNUST, as Asantio 247 to encourage Ghanaians to ensure judicious use of resources in order not to overburden the economy. So a lot is happening with respect to the state of the economy and external engagement with the IMF as well, and how things are playing out. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also live, remember, on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also live on Facebook. It's at 3FM 927. Let's get into the conversation and the issues arising, happening now, and a lot more on the state of the true state of the nation address by the NDC earlier today, delivering what the party purports to be the true state of the nation. The national chair, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, said it is important to awaken the government to the problems confronting the citizenry and that many are in fear of where to find their next meal. He accused government of being clueless and that Ghanaians have come to realize that the claim of the president that they knew how to resolve the economic challenges was a scam. Take a listen to Johnson Esiedun Ketia earlier today.
Party leaders and party executives are weak. I had a lot of confidence in.
It was the Attorney General pretending to take umbrage to the publication of the report. Then comes the Chief Corruption Clearing Agent himself, even before the said report is considered by Parliament. How does President Akufo-Addo reasonably expect Ghanaians to accept as honorable the Auditor General's finding that COVID-19 related payments totaling more than 543 million Ghana cedis were made to various service providers outside of the Ghana Integrated Financial Management Information System in clear violation of Regulation 61 of the Public Financial Management Regulation 2019 LI 2378. How about the Auditor General's finding that medical equipment valued at nearly 250,000 United States dollars, which were procured with COVID funds and subsequently issued to some specific health facilities, did not reach these health facilities? How? Mr. President, I put it to you that there is everything dishonorable with the finding by the Auditor General that a company known as Modern Security Printers Limited, which was awarded a contract to conduct public education on COVID-19 safety protocols for students at an outrageous cost of 1.5 million Ghana cedis, has been paid in full for no work done. I further put it to you, Mr. President, that there is everything dishonorable with the damning finding by the Auditor General that cash payments totaling almost 12 million Ghana cedis to caterers who provided hot meals during the 3 weeks of partial lockdown were all retired with honor certificates instead of receipts, and that other COVID-19 related payments to caterers totaling 5.6 million Ghana cedis were neither backed by receipts or honor certificates.
Johnson Esiedun Ketia further talked about the sector performance of the various ministries, department agencies under this administration, and why the NDC believes that continuously funding state-owned enterprises that are posting losses is not a wise idea. Take a listen to him.
For instance, growth rate of the agricultural sector has seen a decline from 2.7% in 2016 to 0.7% in 2022. And I would say this is the harvest from the Planting for Food and Jobs program, which has received billions of taxpayer and donor funds. Similarly, the growth rate for the manufacturing sector has also declined from 7.9% in 2016 to 4.5% in 2022, thereby calling into question the impact of the much vaunted 1D, 1F program. Further, the growth rate for the construction sector has also declined from 8.4% in 2016 to 4.2% in 2022, despite government's claim about borrowing to build roads and other infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the true state of our nation.
That's Johnson Esudunketia, chair of the NDC, the UPSA, delivering what the NDC termed the true state of the economy there. But Professor of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Legon, Professor Ransford Jampo says the governing New Patriotic Party risks dividing itself as a trend of endorsements continues ahead of the party's primaries. 87 NPP MPs accompanied the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to the second Akwasidai of the year at Menchia Palace, insisting they are not being coerced to support the presidential bid of the Vice President. Speaking to the media, Majority Chief Whip in Parliament, Frank Anodompre, said Dr. Bawumia currently commands 70% of the delegates, making him a clear favorite for the NPP flag bearership.
Tell you, he will not win less than 70%, not less than 70%. I have been in this game for a while. I've been a student leader. I have been a polling station executive. I have been a regional executive. Now I have been a committee chair once upon a time. I am chief whip. I can feel it. I can feel the spirit of the party. The entire spirit of the party is behind this man. And anybody who go against this man is like sweeping against a moving current. He's going to win. There's nothing you can do about it. It's going to be a massive win. As I told you, the minimum will be a 70%. This party, nobody intimidates anybody. That is why I'm not with the NDC. From my childhood, this party is a party that entertains dissenting reasoning. Nobody is intimidated. Nobody can intimidate members of parliament. Can you intimidate this man? You cannot. Don't also underrate the overarching support the man has and attribute it to an intimidation. There is no intimidation. Those who are claiming that we are intimidating them, they should come out and prove it. In any case, it's not 100% support. There are other members of parliament who are supporting other so-called candidates or candidate to be. For the records, we don't have any candidate yet. People who are prospecting to contest. I can give you a number of names, but they are free to do it. There are MPs who are moving around with other people. Nobody's doing anything with them. So.
Well, that's Frank Anodompre there, but reacting to this position, Professor Ransford Jampo says the action of the MPs constitutes a violation of the party's code of conduct.
It's regrettable that political parties, as important political institutions, set their own rules, and yet those people who are supposed to be custodians of the rules, people who are supposed to lead by example, would flout the rules with impunity. When these things happen, they will divide their ranks. And when they divide their ranks, then it becomes difficult for them to achieve their ambition to want to break the eight. I think that these leaders of the party who have openly shown their preferences should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed of violating their party rules with impunity. The one who would win the flag bearership race would win. The one who would emerge victorious. There's no point in you trying to violate party rules just for the purposes of seeking courting affection and seeking support or being liked by any of the flag bearers. It doesn't help.
As Professor of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Legon, Professor Ransford Jampo. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Ori Kwampofo standing by with all the news in the world of sports. Stay with us.
Keys. What could be simpler than a key? Who doesn't have a key? A car key, an office key, a drawer key. But there's one key that rules them all. The house key. The key to a place we call home. The key to the home where everything comes together. The key to a home that is our own. A home where we make life happen with our families and loved ones. Adoha has been working hard for over 30 years to make home ownership within reach for many. Say yes to property with Adoha. Your dream home is one call away. Your dream home is a few clicks away. Visit our Accra project, The Place, by calling 030-2789-757.
Accra gets busy on this frequency, 92.7, 3FM.
And so you're still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. It's now time for sports. My name is Ori Kwampofo, and it's been a big day in sports because we've had the official unveiling of Chris Hughton as the new Black Stars coach. That's information that we've known for weeks now, but today was the official unveiling in Kumasi where the Black Stars will be facing Angola. And the 64-year-old coach did address the media where he touched on a number of issues. Most importantly, he acknowledged that he would have a 21-month contract with the Black Stars, and he went on to outline what he would be doing in those 21 months in terms of short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Let's take a listen.
As regards the duration of my contract, I have to get that right balance. I have to get that right balance of what is short term, what is medium term, and what is long term. At this moment, always the most important thing is short term. Winning football matches that will get you into a better position for when the other games come round. The medium term, of course, is making sure that you qualify and do well in the competitions itself. The longer term, of course, is about developing players and bringing players, like you said. For me, it's about just trying to get the right balance and trying to get the best out of players in whichever position. Because one thing that's general is that sometimes there'll be a player playing for the Black Stars or any international team that may be playing a slightly different position for their clubs.
And so that was new coach of the Black Stars, Chris Hughton, there addressing the media earlier today. Up next for the coach would be training session, which starts on Tuesday. The players are currently arriving in Kumasi, so training will be beginning on Tuesday. They will train again on Wednesday, and then the match against Angola for the Africa Cup of Nations 2023 qualifiers would be all the way on Thursday. So we're bringing you up to date on how the team settles in and all that. But they would be playing at the Baba Sports Stadium, a venue that the Black Stars haven't lost in 23 years. There's been questions about the state of the pitch following the CAF's inspection of the Cape Coast Stadium, hence deeming it unqualified for the Africa Cup of Nations qualifier, hence moving it to the Baba Sports Stadium. But it looks as if the edifice and the facility has been put in place ahead of the game against Angola, according to Ghana Football Association General Secretary Prosper Harrison Addo.
Yes, a lot of work has gone into it. We got the conditional approval to play the match in Kumasi. At that stage, we could have hosted the match, but we wanted to do a bit more, and so that's why we created the opportunity for the managers of the place to have the free hand and the free space to work and improve even better as we wait for the match. So we had a meeting between the ministry, the National Sports Authority, and then the Football Association, a very successful one. We put the plans together, and so far we are abiding by the tenets of that plan, and I think we'll have a successful match in Kumasi.
And so that was General Secretary of the Black Stars, Prosper Harris-Nado, giving an update on the state of the Barbara Sports Stadium, which honestly, from the videos on social media, look world class. So it looks like they're ready for the game against Angola on Thursday. And that's how I'll be wrapping up the sports here on Hot Edition. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
Oreku, thank you so much. All the details in the world of sports. Also, let's go to Parliament briefly, where we understand that Parliament has been compelled to make part payment of its indebtedness to the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. The August House paid 8.5 million cedis out of the 13 million cedis owed ECG to avert disconnection from the national grid. According to my colleague, that's giving us details of this, we also got information that James Klucha-Veji said the payment was made following a visit by ECG's Revenue Mobilization Task Force to the House earlier today. ECG has commenced a series of activities in a bid to recover over 5 billion cedis of debt owed by both private and state institutions. The amount accrued due to non-payment by these institutions since August last year. Now, the exercise began on Monday, March 20, after ECG announced the closure of its main offices except the customer support departments in order to embark on a 1-month-long exercise. All ECG staff from top management to junior officers will be used to retrieve all monies owed the company. As a result, the managing director of ECG, Dubik Mahama, has toured all the operational regions of ECG to sensitize the staff on how to go about the mobilization of revenue. So that's what's happening with ECG. So, yeah, Akofa.
Hi, Alfred.
Expect ECGs.
Oh yeah, they'll be at my doorstep.
No, but I mean, you don't have to expect them. And indeed,
Are you sure?
You are on prepaid.
No,
so you're still on postpaid.
Yeah, and actually, my grandmother loves it. I think it serves us well. Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, because Charlie, I've heard stories where people will be using their light and then the next minute it's gone off. I don't think I can handle that. I don't think I can.
So you're enjoying postpaid still? Wow.
Yeah.
You're one of the lucky few.
Well, I hope they don't change it anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it's a phasing process.
Yeah, but
so
they started a while
they'll
back.
phase it out.
Oh, no.
Yeah, eventually.
I don't know how I'm going to handle that, but yeah. Coming up on Entertainment tonight, showbiz pundits share their thoughts on who wins Artist of the Year at the 24th VGMA nominations. Reigning Reggae Dancehall Artist Episode Eyes High Life category, and gospel musician Celestine Donko throws her weight behind colleague PSC Esther to win Gospel Song and Gospel Artist of the Year. My name is Akofa. Thanks for staying tuned in. Let's dive in now. Opinion is sharply divided on who deserves to win the VGMA Artist of the Year. The Entertainment engaged some industry stakeholders on the night of the nominees release party on who deserves to win the VGMA Artist of the Year, and here's what they had to say.
Any artist that wins is representing the gospel fraternity. And when we throw our weight behind the deserving winner, I think it even glorifies God.
You think PSS is more deserving than yourself?
Oh, yes.
Artist of the Year.
An interesting list. All those that deserve it. But altogether, for me, I think Blacko had an amazing year. And he stood out. And I think he deserves it more than everybody else. I'm not so attached to anything, but clearly I feel he excelled locally, globally, and it's just his time. He deserves to win.
This year, I'm looking at Black Sheriff and Stoneboy. PSA Esther, for the gospel categories, she has no competition there. If you are to look at Artist of the Year, what element we are looking for, she might not cut for all. PSA Esther has done well, but I can also tell you that Stoneboy and Black Sheriff, their influence even surpasses Ghana. They've gone the international world, and Vodafone Ghana Music Awards, they consider all these things to see who is fit for what. So I think that PSA is fit for the nomination. But from face value, Stonebwoy and Black Sheriff, they are ahead of her.
For me, when the person does a good job, nobody should come and then play funny about anything. This year, 2023 is PSC Esther year. When you talk about performances, she's been creditable. She was in Paris, she's been everywhere. From where I sit, I can tell you, this year it is PSC Esther. From gospel artist, best album to overall artist of the year. That's how it's going to be.
Blacko will surely not have that category easy because I foresee Joe Metzel throwing his support for PSC Esther. And then the whole gospel fraternity will come to the party this time around. If you want to cast your mind back some 3 years ago, how Dinah won that category, it was so clear.
Well, just gone by were some industry players sharing their thoughts on who wins Artist of the Year at this year's VGMA. Staying a while longer on the VGMA's Reggae Dancehall Artist episode, and 4 VGMA nominations: Reggae Dancehall Song of the Year, Dancehall Artist of the Year, Collaboration of the Year, and High Life Song of the Year. The Atia crooner told my colleague Usuarai he has his eye on the category, the High Life category, and winning the category is a big deal to him. His contenders include Kofi Kinata, Akwabwa, Kwame Eugene, and Abiana. Let's take a listen.
Being in the High Life category is actually one that I always smile about because, you know, I'm a newbie in that. I just dropped the High Life song and then here we are. I won the High Life Song of the Year. I won that, you know, because, yeah, I've had the Dancehall Artist of the Year, and one day I can tell my kids that I did it for them. If I get it, I'll really be proud, you know, because moving forward is growth for me, you know, and going back into, digging into our indigenous sound is one that I'm studying. So I would be really grateful if I get that.
And you had Reggae Dancehall Artist episode there. And finally, one of the major conversations on the night was that of gospel singer Celestine Donko, who throws her weight behind colleague PSC Esther to win Gospel Song and Gospel Artist of the Year, despite being nominated for same categories.
Any artist that wins is representing the gospel fraternity. And when we throw our weight behind the deserving winner, I think it even glorifies God.
You think PSC Esther is more deserving than yourself?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Like 200% yes. She has worked hard, really hard. And I know what it takes to put in the work she has put in her song this year. I mean, she has to win the female vocalist. Her vocals on YMEA song is amazing. And the Gospel Artist of the Year, no, I mean, where haven't you seen PSC this year? Where? Please.
So you'll be surprised if it comes to you.
If it comes to me, I'll give it to her. If you give it to me, I'll give it to her.
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, that's Celestine Donko.
Yes, Celestine Donko. No, so the thing is, we had not heard from Celestine earlier because the first interaction was with the husband and manager, Mr. Kofi Donko.
I see.
And he said that. And so everybody was a little bit taken aback. And then they interacted with Celestine, who said the same thing. Yes.
I see. That even if she wins that category,
she's going to give it back to her.
She'll give it back to PSC Esther. You know, take your thing. I don't deserve this.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, I think that's a bit of honesty.
Well,
you know, sometimes you're nominated in a category, you know, and with your contemporaries, you know what, this person has done a lot more than me in the year under review.
No, but
I think
Alfred,
it takes some extreme honesty for Celestine Donko to come out
space,
and
so then you say that. But the thing is, Alfred, you knew you had worked as well. That's why you filed for the nominations in the first place.
She didn't know she was going to be in the category with PSC Esther.
You.
No, but if she's talking about PSC Esther amongst the many other persons in the category.
The year under review was the same year that, you know, you saw PSA do whatever it is that she did. And you also did your thing.
Yeah.
So then why are you... Anyways, I believe it's going to be a lengthier conversation. I won't lie to you, because people are still looking at it from different angles as well. The business side as well. Because if I'm an investor and I'm looking at you and you're saying this, that means you don't even believe in your craft and everything else that you stand for.
I disagree.
That is what conversations are happening on social media. And so I believe that we'll expand.
She was just hoping PSA would not file for that particular category.
Really? When she also believes that she's really worked for it? Anyways, that's all the entertainment
You're back
news.
at 8 o'clock,
Yes,
right?
I am. I am back with Wind Down. Entertainment news is powered by 3 Entertainment. My name is Akofa. Thanks for your time.
Thank you as well. While we go, and 2 Ghanaian senior high school graduates have clinched the first and second positions in the best student rankings for the 2022 West African Senior Secondary Certificate Examination at WASI. Alex Opoku Menu and Benjamin Aram Nanakwame Degbe, respectively, from St. James Seminary SHS beat competition from Nigeria's Ogidigbo Chioma Blessing, who settled for 3rd place. Though this was revealed earlier this year, the graduates received their awards at the 71st Annual Council meeting of the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, held in Gambia over the weekend. The students were honored for their remarkable performance out of the 5 countries that took the examination. GES lauded the boys for their achievement, and in a Facebook post which you can find as well on 3news.com. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. On behalf of the rest of the team, we appreciate your company. Continue to listen to the 3FM as the drive continues. Join me at 10 p.m. for Ghana Tonight. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a great evening.